survivors, and welcome to Survivor's Guilt, the only channel that determines your odds of surviving 2022's cluster film, Jeepers Creepers Reborn. So stay tuned till the end for your survival stats. I'm your sharp-dressed slasher turned pending lawsuit, GhostFake. Go ahead and have that like button try on a whole bunch of sexy cosplay costumes to play out your weird fantasies. And go ahead and teach that subscribe button how to throw a shuriken for no obvious reason. And use that share button to let everyone know that Jeepers Creepers 3 is actually a good movie all of a sudden. Now I hope you like distant planets that are exactly like Earth in every single way except for one thing, that every single element on the periodic table is green screen, cause this movie is getting spoiled. Jeepers Creepers Reborn, written by Sean-Michael Argo and directed by Timo Vuorensola, and starring Sydney Craven, no relation, Imran Adams, no relation, Peter Brooke, no relation, Navarro, no relation, and Jarreau Benjamin, no relation. Jeepers Creepers Reborn is about a small group of strangers that win a chance to do an escape room only to find out that it's some sort of trap for a creeper-worshipping cult. And I'm not talking about Hollywood. Jeepers Creepers Reborn is like if someone decided that they wanted to make a sequel that fans have been waiting nearly 2 decades for, only to decide to do their own thing, with some half-assed callbacks to the previous movies. Jeepers Creepers Reborn is the movie you'd make if you wanted to nuke the franchise. Anyway, we open up to a half-assed callback to the original movie with Ronnie and Marie, which are basically stand-ins for Derry and Trish Jenner, cause why not? As they are playing a game of what does that license plate say, when they get rushed by an unfamiliar truck with the license plate, "Be eating you."
Go around!
Which passes them and speeds down the road. Sometime later, they pass the truck as it's pulled over on the side of the road, and they see a mysterious figure tossing their dead body-shaped linens down a pipe in the ground.
I don't think we were supposed to see that.
They speed up a little only for the truck to catch up to them, and Ronnie turns them onto a side road to get away. They stop and take note of the license plate and then decide to head to the gas station to call the police. But once on the road, Ronnie decides that they should double back to the pipe and check out those linens. They show up at what I think is the Barnabas house, and they look into the pipe and make a shocking discovery. That this was just a reenactment on a channel called Mysteries of the Macabre. And we get introduced to Chase and his girlfriend Lane. We learn here that Chase has totally bought into the story of the creeper.
This really happened. Somewhere in this area, actually.
While Lane prefers to stick to what she can demonstrably prove.
Come on, there's a reason those things were unsolved. It's all myths and legends.
Chase goes on to explain the legend of the creeper while Lane brushes it off like it's another conspiracy theory.
Oh, it's just like Bigfoot, Mothman, Spring-Heeled Jack, Chupacabra, or any others.
Before they have an argument about conspiracy theories versus science.
And the Earth is flat. The Apollo landing was faked.
Which is funny because we've spent the last 2 years watching the science catch up to the conspiracy theories.
Your precious science doesn't have all the answers!
But Lane, who fancies herself a scientist, lives by Occam's razor.
Occam's razor. The simplest explanation is most likely to be true.
I personally prefer to live by GhostFake's razor, which is that you don't attribute to stupidity what can easily be explained as malice. It's a spin on Hanlon's razor, and it makes sense about what we've been through the last couple years. Anyway, Chase goes on to tell Lane the history of the creeper, that every 23 years for 23 days, blah blah blah, when she brings up that they made movies about it.
Wait, didn't they make a movie out of it? Creepy Creeper or something?
But when he starts digging into the plot of Jeepers Creepers 3, Lane gets nauseous and pulls the vehicle over and runs into the woods.
Baby! Lane!
Oh wow, check out that green screen. Guys, the green screen in this movie makes my Jeepers Creepers 3 video look like I was actually in the back of the creeper van, cause I was. And boy, you don't want to know what he charged me for that ride. Let's just say that there's a reason they call him the creeper. Yikes. Anyway, Lane runs into the woods and throws up, and it just so happens to be a tree that the creeper lost one of his homemade shurikens in some 23 years ago. And this albino looking bird lands on the tree too. Man, this tree gets a lot of action apparently. Anyway, while she unloads her tummy, Chase contacts his mom to let her know that he plans on popping the question during this weekend's getaway. And while all that's happening, we cut over to this random house and this random outbuilding. Hey, what the hell is that? Is that a Post Puncher 500? Like the one that Jack Taggart used to take out the creeper? Well, that's interesting. It's like the filmmakers paid enough attention for callbacks, but not enough attention to give a shit. Anyway, the creeper crawls out of the building and finds a big ball of worms. Ugh, maybe they were mating or something. And the creeper devours the orgy of worms, and he moves on to a boar and apparently eats that too, before he finds a new suit on this scarecrow. What, were they all out of suits at the dump? I stole that joke from Liv and Maddie. That show's hilarious. We cut over to this dude, his name is Sam, and he calls Lane, who tells him that she's definitely pregnant. Sam lets her know that he's gotta go.
But I need to tinkle, tailor, my soldier spy.
And they hang up the phone. Lane heads back to the car while Sam heads into the woods. But when Sam stops to take a leak, the creeper sneaks up on him and sucks face with him, sucking Sam's face into the meat bank at deposit number 1. Cut over to Chase and Lane, who have decided to stop at Lady Manila's voodoo shop and look at the crap that she's selling for ridiculous prices. And if I didn't mention it earlier, this movie takes place in Louisiana, for absolutely no reason. Not Florida, Louisiana. Lady Manila comes out and gives them directions, but when she hands the map back to Lane, it turns out that Lady Manila was clairvoyant 19 positive and passes it on to Lane. Holy shit, talk about a super spreader event. Anyway, she charges them $50 for that map and they leave into the great green screen wilderness of Louisiana.
Oh, and congratulations to you both.
Before she tells them congratulations, which Chase is confused by and Lane feigns confusion by.
Oh, he doesn't know. Neither does she.
And when they leave, she pulls out an old phone and calls someone, letting them know that they have a tree bearing fruit, Lane, and that he, the creeper, will be most pleased.
He will be most pleased.
Cut over to the green screen hotel room. Nah, just kidding. It's a real hotel room, but I guarantee that the only thing outside of that room is green screen. Chase gives Lane a bunch of costumes to try on before they head to the Horror Hound Festival, and when she says she doesn't want to dress up, he basically guilts her into doing it by looking all sad, which leads to an out-of-place montage where Lane tries on the costumes, before she lands on Jennifer from Jennifer's body, and Chase breaks the news that he's a liar and won't be wearing any costume. Cut over to the Horror Hound Festival where Lane notices a street creeper preaching the gospel of creepshianity.
I'm pretty sure the correct phrase is he is risen.
You know, his meals are not our meals, devour us from evil, we pray these things in Jeepers' name. You know, creepshianity. Anyway, the preacher gives them the stink eye while they head into the festival, but they go anyway. They run into a guy whose name is Brent, who has an arrow sticking out of him, but it turns out to just be a prank, bro.
That's right, welcome to hell!
But when he walks into the woods, probably in celebration of a prank successfully accomplished,
Their pants. The looks on their faces.
scratch that, definitely in celebration of a prank successfully accomplished, he lights up a victory joint. But just as soon as he lights it up, the creeper shows up and hangs him up on a tree and throws some homemade shurikens into him, target practicing this prankster into the meat bank at deposit number 2. Back at the festival, we get introduced to Stu, who runs the Throw Sharp Objects carnival game, which Chase wants to try, and he promptly embarrasses himself.
Watch me. That was close.
But Lane notices the homemade shurikens that Stu probably picked up on Etsy, before Stu gives her a lesson in throwing sharp objects. Oh, phew, she's a natural. A little later, in one of the tents, we get introduced to Carrie, an internet reporter covering the festival, when Lady Manila comes in and throws out all the entrants into the Creeper Draw, which is an event revolving around the Barnabas house, which apparently has ties to the Creeper in some way, in which if someone's ticket stub is drawn, they win a chance to do an escape room at the house. But Lady Manila here is throwing out all of the stubs and ensuring that Lane will win. After the cosplay competition, Carrie introduces us to Madam Carnage, who needs to be heard to be believed.
Injecting fear into the hearts of mere mortals like y'all.
And after a short explanation, Madam Carnage invites Lady Manila to the stage to do the draw, and of course, Lane wins.
Oh my god, that's me.
What?
They gather Lane and Chase and introduce them to Jamie, the producer of Carrie's show, who has them sign liability waivers in case anything happens.
I'm Jamie, the producer of her show.
And the group loads into Stu's van and head to the Barnabas house. Meanwhile, the creeper, who hasn't driven in 23 years, gets into his truck and speeds down the road. But when he realizes that his license expired decades ago, he loses control of his vehicle and slams into the town's lone internet tower. Oh no, not the internet tower! Cut over to the group that arrives at the Barnabas Cemetery and listens to Stu's story about the family.
Sacred, but very, very haunted.
With Lane getting frustrated at Chase for flirting with Carrie. This group is insufferable. Stu breaks the news that they'll have to walk to the house from here. Jamie tells Michael, the camera guy, to start filming, but Michael brought the wrong camera. He brought the camera that runs on internet, and the town just ran out of internet minutes ago. Damn it, Michael, you should have brought the camera that runs on green screen. This movie has an abundance of green screen. Speaking of green screen, Lane gets sick of seeing Chase flirt with Carrie and walks out of the scene and onto the set, where she lets Chase know that she's irritated with him. Meanwhile, Michael heads into the cemetery after he sees a shadowy figure, and he chases them down asking if they have any extra internet laying around that he can borrow.
I just need a bit of a tethering in order to get my stuff online.
But when the robed figure disappears into a green screen tomb, Michael gets jump scared by the albino bird before he gets jumped by the creeper, who came to kill Michael and surf the internet. But he's all out of internet, supply chaining Michael into the meat bank at deposit number 3. Meanwhile, Chase decides that he better propose before his chances get any worse, but he doesn't get the answer that he was expecting. I'm sorry, Chase, but you'll get over her. There are plenty of fish in the sea, night is always darkest before the dawn, and in a few weeks you won't even remember her name, yada yada yada. Cut to the rest of the group, who has finally wandered into the green screen graveyard and discovered Michael's camera. Chase runs up to them, stuttering something about what happened to Lane, and tells them to call the police, before running in the opposite direction. But he doesn't get very far because he trips over Michael's dead body. This is the interesting thing about this reboot. The creeper just kills for absolutely no reason and leaves the bodies laying around. He's not hoarding them or killing for specific parts, he's just killing, which makes the creeper a whole lot less interesting. He could just be an animal at this point, like a bear or something.
Bears don't fly.
Ah, good point, Jamie. Anyway, the group walks up and investigates Michael's mangled body.
It's fresh. Really fresh. Something's gotta be still out here.
No Jamie, you were just talking to this dude 5 minutes ago. Of course it's fresh. The group then hightail it to the green screen house, and we cut over to Lane, who is tied down to a green screen slab in a green screen lair. The creeper gives her the old Biden snifferooski before plunging his dagger into her abdomen. How progressive. The other group enter the Barnabas mansion and the door shuts behind them. As it turns out, 3 robed figures have followed them to the house and have locked them in. The priest, Madam Carnage, and Lady Manila. The group begin to panic, realizing that they're trapped in the house, and Jamie turns on Stu, believing him to be in on it.
Is this some kind of game you're playing here? Because you can stop the show and open the door.
Before the others join in.
What did you do with Lane?
Where is she? Hey! Calm down.
Stu claims that he was only hired to scare them a little, but that he has nothing to do with their current predicament. Before Stu drops a major twist on us when Carrie asks him who hired him.
Hired by who?
Giselle. Manila.
Stu says that Lady Manila's name is Giselle, which means that the lady from the first movie, Giselle, the one who helped Darry Trish, is now one of the main antagonists of this movie. Not since Hulk Hogan have we seen such a heel turn. Now the question is, does that make the first 3 movies canon? I say no, because that's dumb. Anywho, Chase and Jamie start threatening Stu for such a stupid-ass twist, and he pulls out a gun to get them to step off. He shoots it up in the air as if they weren't in a house or something, which gains the attention of the creeper, who hasn't moved an inch in minutes. The creeper then jumps up through a pipe in the ground and flies towards the mansion. The group decide that they better just work together. Yep, a gun will do that. And quickly realize that there was never an escape room and that it was always just a trap. But just then, they hear a banging on the front door. You know, the one that's locked from the outside? Yeah, that front door. And the group realize that if whatever is on the other side of that door is too dumb to open it, it's probably not human. Guys, seriously, they put a beam of wood and a spike to lock the door closed. The piece holding the spike isn't even fastened to the frame. There are no screws holding that on. How does this happen? How? He's even turning the damn knob. The creeper knows how doors work. The group runs up the stairs and down the hallway and then up some more stairs before they get to the attic, where they find dead Sam hanging from the rafters, and then the creeper busts in through the window and starts wagging his finger at Stu. Stu shoots it in the hand a couple of times before the creeper manifests an axe out of thin air and chucks it at him. He then starts whistling in such a way that it stuns the group, causing them so much pain that all they can do is clutch their ears and scream. Chase attacks the creep while the other 3 pull the axe out of the door and throw it on the floor. Jamie and Stu grab Chase and pull him out of the attic while the creeper decides to replace his mangled hand. Apparently, ripping off your forearm sounds just like pulling a suction cup off a window. Neat. The creeper then walks over to Sam's suspended body and rips off his arm, eats it, and grows a new one. Meanwhile, back with Lane, she's found the creeper's dagger, which was left right next to her hand, and she begins cutting herself free. Once free, she wanders over to the creeper's craft table to find a couple of its homemade shurikens, her weapon of choice, and she takes them with her as she escapes the lair. Cut back over to the mansion where the creeper puts on his favorite record to jam to while he butchers these people, and they head into a room and shut the door, knowing that doors are this creeper's weakness. The group contemplate their options when they hear something in the air ducts. That's cool. This house is old as f*** and has been abandoned for years, and yet it has an air duct system. Neat. Anyway, someone falls through the ducts. Oh, how did she get in there? And Lane lets them know that it's her the creeper wants. And Chase tells the group that they have to head upstairs because it's the only way out. They head upstairs and find a room with an old phone, but when Jamie rushes to use it, he steps on a bear trap, mangling his leg. And while the rest of the group tries to free him, Chase goes over to the phone and he uses it to call the cops. And he tells them that they're at the Barnabas house and the creeper is after them, to which they accuse him of being on drugs.
Have you been taking drugs?
Well, I sound like a stoner to you.
But before he can convince them otherwise, the creeper pulls the phone cord, jerking the phone out of his hand and into the wall. The group decide to head back downstairs and start discussing what they should do, believing that if they go outside, they'll be sitting ducks, and that their best bet might be to trap it and to try to kill it. But the creeper interrupts them by breaking through the front door, 'cause why not? And he beams Carrie in the head with an axe, axing her into the meat bank at deposit number 4. The remaining group then runs into the nearest room and barricade themselves in, before realizing that they're in an altar room, an altar to callbacks from previous installments of the franchise. But before they can notice all of them, Lane's Clairvoyance 19 infection flares up, and she has another vision, seeing herself in the center of the room while the robed figures surround her and summon the creeper, who is apparently after her baby. Meanwhile, the creeper is snacking on some Carrie brains in the other room, and Chase starts bandaging up Jamie, and Lane starts digging into the altar and notices a doll that looks just like Derry Jenner from the first movie. And unfortunately, this old house has a blood leak that follows a trail to a random stone in the center of the room.
Guys, the stone.
The group slide the stone out of the way and find a small room underneath the floor with deposits 5 through 8. Lane comes to the realization that the cult is feeding the creeper before letting Chase know that she is pregnant.
Ready to take you. What really happened?
Chase, I'm pregnant.
And that's why the creeper is after her. And also that she changed her mind on the whole marriage thing.
Yes, I will marry you.
Near-death experiences will make you do funny things. The group start looking around, piecing together what in the world is happening here, and also determine that Ronnie and Marie were real people, making them deposits 9 and 10 into the meat bank. And the group hatch a plan. They leave the room, and Stu and Jamie head upstairs and follow the trail of Carrie's blood into a room, where the creeper surprise attacks them. The creeper throws something at Jamie, pinning him to the wall, and into our meat bank at deposit number 11. Before he throws down with Stu, Stu stabs him in the thigh and then breaks his record player over his back, and runs back downstairs. The creeper, after noticing his record player, follows Stu downstairs to beat his ass, but then he notices Lane and goes after her instead. She leads him out the front door while Stu and Chase head to the roof. Lane kneels down and disarms herself and offers herself to the creeper, just as Stu and Chase get to the weather main. But Lane's Clairvoyance 19 flares up again, and she has another vision where the cultists are telling the creeper to take the baby because it'll help it live forever.
Live forever. Take the baby.
Doesn't the creeper already live forever? But Lane has decided that she wants to keep it and uses the creeper's homemade shurikens to stab it in the ears.
You can't have it!
Well, that pissed it off, and Lane backs away while she throws its shurikens into its eyes, blinding it probably.
How do you like those peepers, bitch?
The creeper starts swinging at her wildly while Stu and Chase get the weather main ready, and when Lane tells them to, they throw it down onto the creeper, skewering him right through the mouth. But just when they think the nightmare is over, a bunch of crows begin swarming them, knocking Stu off the roof and into the meat bank at deposit number 12. You gotta be kidding me. Chase climbs back into the house and down to the bottom floor, and Lane heads in with him, while the birds swarm the creeper's body and devour it, I guess? The newly engaged couple walk outside and head towards the cops that just pulled up, and the cops put the two of them in the back of the patrol car. And as Lane stares off the abandoned mansion, her eyes turn black. I guess she's possessed now? An unintended consequence of playing around in a probably haunted house. Cut over to the creeper, who just got done getting vomited up by birds, and the movie ends. So now, to find out, what are your chances of suffering survivor's guilt? This is where we take a look at our main characters and the death that surrounds them to determine your odds of surviving this movie. We start off our meat bank deposits with Sam, sucking face into the meat bank at deposit number 1, followed by Brent, celebrating a successful prank at deposit number 2. Michael dies searching for internet supply at deposit number 3. Carrie proves she's got brains at deposit number 4. The bodies under the floor make up deposits 5 through 8. Ronnie and Marie, Derry and Trish their way into the meat bank at deposits 9 and 10. Jamie hangs around at deposit number 11, and we wrap up our meat bank deposits with Stu, falling off the roof to his death after everything he's endured, landing in at deposit number 12 into our meat bank. Now let's take a look at our survivors. We've got Lane, Chase, Madam Carnage, Giselle aka Lady Manila, and Lane's unborn baby, which means that out of a total of 17 characters, only 5 survive, giving you a 29.4% chance of surviving this movie. Given those odds, how would you like getting devoured and then thrown up by birds? Let me know in the comments below. And, just in case this is canon, if we include everything from films 1 through 3, we've got 351 dead with only 19 survivors, which means that you've got a 5.14% chance of surviving this series. Given those odds, how would you let the creeper know that the screen is always greener on the other side of the franchise? Let me know in the comments below. And if you'd like to know how I got those numbers, go ahead and check out my episodes on Jeepers Creepers 1 through 3. And a huge thanks to my patrons for keeping the lights on. We appreciate your support greatly. And I hope that everybody out there has a very Merry Christmas. And, as always guys, thanks, and don't die.
Injecting fear into the hearts of mere mortals like y'all.